The Dane and Derek Show is an uncensored, unfiltered podcast. Content warnings can be found in the episode description. Hello, and welcome to the Dane and Derek Show, a podcast where two nerdy friends keep in touch and shoot the shit. I'm Benig-Aiello, a writer, director, and occasional D&D player, and with me as always is my buddy, Dane Fogdall.
I'm Dane, a writer, musician, podcaster, and lover of tabletop RPGs.
This week, we would love to shout out my friend Kyla Worrell for listening to our podcast, specifically the Ma episodes. Thank you for listening, Kyla. It's been great getting to know you, and great that you listen to our show.
You sound cool, Kyla. You go. Whatever you're doing, you go at it.
Yeah. All right. As evidenced by the title of this episode, spoilers. This podcast is not ending. Dane, what is your favorite ending in art?
Ooh boy. There are lots of potential answers for that. One ending I'm obsessed with right now is the ending to the Kimetsu no Yaiba Demon Slayer manga. Because very often manga and then the anime adaptations tend to kind of overstay their welcome. They just last way too long and don't end. So the fact that it ended really beautifully and didn't overstay its welcome at all, it just told its story, was really impressive and really cool. I will say I have a particular fondness for the way the Lord of the Rings movies ended. A lot of people don't care for that because it's like a 30-40 minute ending to a film. But I felt like it earned it, and I kind of appreciated that. Other endings I adore. Oh shoot. Shadow of the Colossus. I love the Shadow of Colossus ending. Scott Pilgrim. I like how Scott Pilgrim ends a lot.
Okay.
And let me pick a book. You know what? I've made this recommendation before, but Uprooted, I really like how Uprooted ends. I think it's very sweet, and definitely makes it feel like the characters' lives continued after the book ended or closes.
Good stuff. It's still on my shelf. I still got to read it. Looking forward to it, though.
Now, when you do, let me know. What about you? Favorite endings?
Favorite endings. So I think my favorite ending of all time. I just had one, and then I started thinking about other endings in media that I like, and I got distracted. That's no excuse. I asked you the question. Hang on. It'll come back to me. It's not an anime. It's not animated.
Do you have a genre like science fiction, fantasy, something?
I want to say it's a fantasy movie. Um, yeah, I'll just start listing off a few. Let's see. The End of the Two Towers. Sam's monologue.
Oh, that's a good
Beautiful. Can't really compete with that.
one.
The End of Tangled. Flynn Rider kicking ass, being wholesome, and Rapunzel doing her thing, and like sort of like that kind of double twist ending was really nice. And really fairy tale-y.
Yeah.
And Wolf Children.
I don't even know. I've never heard of that. Not even once.
You need to watch Wolf Children. I'm not going to
Okay.
say anything else. You got to watch Wolf Children. Have you seen
Okay.
Girl Who Lived Through Time or Summer Wars?
No.
Have you seen Boy and the Beast?
No. I
Have
feel
you
like I'm
seen?
disappointing you right now.
Wow, no, these are like you should watch these. They're all Japanese anime films directed by Mamoru Hosoda, who did the Digimon movie back in the early 2000s.
All right.
Um, and he was
You
gonna
should,
direct Howl's Moving Castle before he
huh?
quit. Uh,
You should send this list to me.
yeah, Wolf Children. Oh, you would love Wolf Children. Wolf Children. Yeah, I have a feeling you will watch Wolf Children over and over again.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I probably overhyped it, but yeah, Wolf Children definitely up there.
All right.
Yeah. Which, speaking of endings, endings in art, when things end, when a movie ends, when a book ends, what do you think makes a good ending, or a memorable one, or one that you enjoy?
Satisfying. It needs
Satisfying.
to be, yes. Um, yeah. And I don't necessarily mean satisfying as like every little thing has been tied up in a neat little bow. Um, and I don't mean like it ended happy necessarily either. Uh, I mean, it needs to be emotionally satisfying. Like it kind of needs to be, um, it needs to like hit the mark, right? The whole piece happened, and then the ending is the send off, right? Like it needs
Hmm.
to be resonant with the rest of the work. Uh, and that can be done any number of ways, right? Like it can be a happy ending, it can be sort of a thought provoking ending, it can be a tragic ending, it could be a twist ending. Um, although I am I am suspicious of twist endings uh, when they occur because I tend to be like, hmm, hmm, I don't know if you earned that or not. Like, did you just
Yeah.
do a twist to do a twist, or is this truly necessary? I'm pretty suspicious of twists, just in
Yeah.
general. That's a personal thing, though. Um, but like, for example, I think like I'll contrast two pretty famous movie endings, and I think one is significantly more better ending than the other. I think that Empire Strikes Back is a much better ending than the original Star Wars. I think that at the end of Empire Strikes Back, they're kind of staring out at the galaxy. It feels like, how the fuck are they going to get out of this? It's rough. Everybody's banged up, but there's like a hope to it. It kind of has a twin sunsets sort of feeling to it.
Hmm.
Again, like it feels resonant with both pieces of work. Uh, the ending to A New Hope, on the other hand, is just sort of a parade, and they get a medal. And I sit there and I'm like, the hell does this have to do with like anything? Like, it's very strange to me, and I get that, like, hooray, the good guys saved the day, but like that is just so cheesy, like to the next level of cheesy, even by Star Wars standards. That ending is cheesy, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so like I don't find that as satisfying because it's like this doesn't really hit home in the same way.
Yeah.
So like that, yeah, that's kind of what I mean.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I see what you're saying there. It's like if Avatar season one ended on a very different note than how season one actually ended, you know? Like it would make season two feel all that more edgier and would make season one feel kind of weird. It wouldn't like lead you into season two in a sort of like, oh boy, like things are tense kind of feeling, you know?
Yeah, yeah, like whatever your ending is, it needs to match the rest of the work, right?
Hmm.
Um, like I personally would, and this kind of goes back to how I feel about most art is I'm looking for kind of like a harmony of like a unity of the work, not so much perfection in the work. So like I would much rather read. I guess maybe a good question is: would you rather read, watch, play something that kind of meanders and is kind of like meh through most of it, and then really sticks the ending, or would you rather uh, have something amazing that kind of fumbles the ending?
Oh, 100% the former.
Mm-hmm.
Something that meanders and has a great ending. Going back, we talked about this a bit ago, but people are only going to remember the last 5 minutes of whatever they read, watched, listened to, or experienced in the game. And that last bit, really it influences how you think of the rest of the piece.
True.
And I would much rather play something that meanders or watch something that meanders, like a film that meanders that I really like that has a great ending is A Silent Voice, another anime film. The end
Mm,
of the movie just kind of like brings you back to the very beginning with the main character. It comes full circle. They do this really cool like lighting effect that just like kind of just it like reintroduces the idea of sound into the movie again.
gotcha.
After you listen to the whole movie and there is sound, but it reintroduces it in a different context, and all of a sudden you can just kind of feel what the character's feeling, and it's just a great kind of moment to cut to black to that. It's a risky move, but
Mm-hmm.
it paid off, and I
Yeah.
think I appreciate that a lot more than I appreciate not taking that risk. Like, you know, Empire Strikes Back is definitely the best ending of any Star Wars film, I would say, uh, because like I mean,
Yes. Yes.
even Return of the Jedi has a little bit of like a parade kind of vibe.
It does have a bit of a parade kind of vibe, but I will say I think it's more earned than A New Hope because at the time that
Yes,
was supposed to sort of be the end.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but
and
yeah,
yeah.
but yeah.
So I think that there's your idea of earning an ending. I think that's a really good point about how like the ending needs to feel earned and deserved. Just like anything in a piece of media, a character has to start at the bottom and work their way up to something, or start somewhere changed from how they are at the end. What do you think when you're looking for an earned ending?
Mhm.
What what defines an earned ending in your eyes?
I will say I don't think an earned ending is necessarily like one you could see coming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but an earned ending, I feel, should certainly, when you look back at the rest of the work, it's like, yep, everything here's tracks. Like all of it works. Um, and I think it has a lot to do with a certain amount of believability and is it the right note, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, like for example, this might be a little controversial, and feelings about Harry Potter are complicated in general. Thanks, JK. But uh, the Harry Potter septilogy, seven book
Yeah.
series, um, is it ends almost, almost there. It's almost there for me. So the ending, spoilers, I guess. Um, it ends with Harry talking to his son about, is evil inherent or not? Um, basically, in a kind of roundabout way. And I think that is an amazing ending. Like, brilliant, that little bit. In the same hand, right before that happened, there's this moment where everybody had we get to see everybody's perfect little romantic pairing and future, sort of. Um, and that I found a little unearned. Um,
Parade
based,
vibes.
huh?
Parade vibes.
Parade vibes. Yes, parade vibes, in the sense that I thought, like, yes, everybody, like, because so much of that series is about people, like Harry is so desperately just trying to be normal, and it turns out that normal is not magical, but normal is accepted, loved, being able to, experience a human life without being abused or attacked or thrown through violence, right?
Right.
That is what his journey is. And so throwing a fairy tale ending on it, I think is a little weird, because it's not that Harry was trying to have some perfect magical thing at the end. He was trying to have a normal life, and a normal life would be messy. In all honesty, the relationships he and his friends got into when they were 17 wouldn't work out. Like, honestly, it's a little
Right.
weird. Um,
Right. Yeah.
um, so I think it's earned in that way. Uh, and I so badly want to talk about Uprooted, but you haven't read it, so I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be good.
Yeah.
Um,
Here's
be,
okay. Oh
mhm.
yeah.
Oh, you say what you're gonna
Oh,
say.
so here's sort of my criteria for a good ending, and this goes back to what one of my favorite endings in art is, because I just remembered what it was, what it truly is.
Oh, good.
My favorite ending of all time.
Yeah,
It's episode 45 of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. The
that is a deep
Rangers,
cut. I don't I,
yeah.
I don't know it, but I know that that's a deep cut.
I will describe it because it's epic and probably no one's going to watch it. And probably nobody cares about spoilers. But here we go. Spoilers for Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. Um,
Yeah.
Basically, after an entire season of traveling through space, getting beaten up by giant space aliens, and losing friends, and losing powers, and losing people that they love to these villains and to, natural disasters, the Rangers are finally faced with the most impossible situation. Their giant floating space colony is about to crash, and they have to evacuate everybody off of it. But they can't really do that. They have to split up because the villains are using this as an opportunity to attack and to destroy everything that they've worked so hard for. So what happens? The Red Ranger uses every single tool in his arsenal that he sweat over and fought for the entire season, after constantly trying to prove that he is in fact a worthy Red Ranger, because fun fact, he was not supposed to be the Red Ranger. And so he goes and he fights and he fights and he uses up everything in his arsenal. Everything gets destroyed. His Megazords, his sick ass motorbikes, even his Battleizer armor. And then he makes the ultimate play. He blows himself and the villain up because he knows he can't do anything else but that. And it's awesome because just when everybody thinks he's dead, he crawls out of the rubble with a big hole in his helmet, and he gives this awesome thumbs up that they show 4 times in a row. And it's incredible because you just spent 45 episodes with this guy, watching him struggle to accept himself and be accepted by others, finally figure out what it means to be a hero. And he saves the day and lives, and it's awesome. And it's so good. Um, and to me, it's like everything that he did throughout the show, everything that he wanted, everything that he struggled with, every mistake he made, all came into play into that final fight. And that to me is what sort of defines a good ending, when everything that you've established comes back into play one more time, and you get to see the hero one more time use what they've learned to do something about it.
More harmony. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was I was thinking while you were talking about that, that a lot of what you were mentioning, it works because it it works because it's part of the thing, it's part of the whole, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think a good ending is distinctly not separate from
Hmm.
the rest of the story. Um, it's not an afterthought. It's not its own piece. It's the natural part of the story. And like something that like perhaps this will be controversial because there are people who love it, but like the Game of Thrones ending, for
I was
example.
just gonna say.
Um that one I find fails not because what is actually on paper doesn't work necessarily, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a version of what's on the page of like the bullet points of that final season or two-ish seasons basically that works. Um but it doesn't follow with the rest of the show in a sense.
Right.
It isn't patient like the rest of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't like something like you were talking about with I'm going to compare Game of Thrones to Power Ranger Galaxy Heroes, right?
Lost Galaxy.
Lost Galaxy, thank you. Um I don't know this show. I'm going to compare them right now based off of what you told me. The Red Ranger surviving that last thing is in keeping with the show. It's in keeping with everything I know about Power Rangers. I'd be completely thrown off if like there wasn't some miraculous survival at the end or something.
Right.
It'd
Mm-hmm.
be discordant in a sense,
Yeah.
right? Um and so the final season of Game of Thrones with a lot of like twists and turns and throws and like all of this like stuff feels very out of place because it didn't do its twists like you think that like the rest of the show did.
Right.
Um so its twist endings did not feel earned. They just felt like they were going for shock value. Um I have many feelings about Game of Thrones and I will put the rest of them aside.
Yeah.
But I think something that is also important about an ending is when it arrives, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like an ending that comes too early or too late, um, I think can ruin a lot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I see that an ending comes too late far more often than I see an ending that comes too early. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I'd agree with that because you have a lot of movies and a lot of video games that and in a lot of TV shows that
I see it
last
most in TV. I see it most
yeah,
in
they
TV
last
and
yep. They last like 20, 30 seasons and they still haven't ended. And like, there are very few shows that we can think of that got canceled before their time that never got a real ending that are considered still great, you know? There are
mm-hmm.
very few of those shows. Um, and a lot of times the only reason why they're considered sometimes like now, especially like looking back, like sometimes they're only considered great because they ended early, so people got to imagine what it could have been,
And they
right? And
never got
that's
the chance to be bad.
exactly they never got the chance to be bad, and that's you know exactly. Oh, there was a, I mean, like I'm trying to think of a good show that ends perfectly. I mean, besides Avatar: The Last Airbender, what's a good show that ends perfectly?
Um
Um, I mean, Cowboy Bebop, Cowboy
oh
Bebop,
yeah, Cowboy Bebop
Cowboy
for
Bebop,
sure.
and Samurai Champloo. They both,
Yep.
yeah, they both they last. They don't overstay their welcome, and I
Nope.
think that's something very important because, like, it's trust. You put a lot of trust into the audience to stick around with you, and when you overstay your welcome, people know. People are smart. People know, and they don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that yeah,
Yeah, like I'm thinking about like all the shows I've loved where it's just like completely lost me at a certain point. Like Buffy the Vampire Slayer lost me hard. How I Met Your
Mm,
Mother lost me hard.
yeah.
I have
Yeah, for me it was Smallville. I got super lost in Smallville, and even Arrow. I kind of
yep,
gave up on Arrow until that last season when they only had 8 episodes, and it made that last season that much better that it wasn't a full 20 something.
yep,
It was just nice 8 short episodes.
yeah. No, it's yeah. There's a point at which things can go on far too long. Um, Kind of thinking about video games in that regard. I think of like I think I think Dragon Age Inquisition is too long. I think
Yeah,
the ending comes far too late, and that is not a matter of the actual pacing of the story. It's more a matter of the pacing of the game versus like we love Breath of the Wild here, so we'll just keep doing that. Because Breath of the Wild lets you choose when the game is over, the ending basically already always comes at the right time,
yep,
which is secret brilliance.
yeah,
So yeah, I think it's so much easier to overstay your welcome. Um, but I think I'm also sympathetic to it, you know? Like I'm sympathetic to the fact that like creators when they hit their stride with something, when they have something that's working, wanting to stretch that out as long as you can, you
yeah.
know? I
It's hard.
yeah, I am deeply sympathetic to that. Um
Yeah,
so like
because
I
yeah. Sorry, you go.
oh no, I yeah, I don't blame anybody for making that mistake.
Yeah,
Um
nobody wants a good thing to end, but all
mm-mm.
good things have to end.
All good things have to end, and they have to end. You almost have to plan it, you know. Like
Yeah,
I think about like I think why it's so hard for say the average sort of sitcom to end is because there's no plan for an ending to most
mm,
sitcoms, right? Like
yeah, right.
how is like how is Friends supposed to end? You know, like what
Yeah,
like from the
yeah,
concept like there's no understanding like with like Lord of the Rings it's very clear it's like yep this ring has to be destroyed and when the ring is destroyed the ending will happen right because the
right.
story's
Yeah,
over whereas with like Friends it's like when does this end
yeah,
what like it's the concept it's so much of like and I'm calling out television here in particular because it's I think it suffers from this the most and most frequently is like we didn't really plan on that you know and I find that like the first couple of seasons of shows tend to be have a lot more focus because shows they often get like they're like we know we're going to get one season maybe two or three so let's plan out for that and then like
yeah,
it's usually around season like four five sometimes maybe six where people like clearly they're like we didn't really think we'd get this far
yeah.
huh
Like Supernatural.
yeah whereas like other creators come in and I like Avatar the Last Airbender Gravity Falls, Schitt's Creek, Demon Slayer did this, Cowboy Bebop, Samurai. Like these shows that end really well, they tend to be a couple of seasons or whatnot, but they end really hard and very distinctly, and it feels extremely planned. Like it's like nope, we knew that this was going to be this long with this many episodes, so we wrote it that way. It was
Yeah.
created that way. We knew. Um, and something I've
Yep.
learned recently about video game design is often games will go into production without an ending in mind, which is why video game endings often
Yeah.
really fail to hit the mark. But like one thing about Breath of the Wild upside is Breath of the Wild actually benefits from the fact that like with Legend of Zelda, you know how it ends. It's
Right.
already like you know they're gonna defeat Ganon, and then the game will be over. That's the
Yep.
end of the story, right? Like,
Yeah.
so if you know that, if you know your ending, you know, like I think that helps you. And so we talked about process recently, you and I. Um, and one thing I often think about with process is there are people who people claim that there are basically two ways to write. There are the planners and the pantsers. I don't know if you've ever heard these terms. There's people who
Yeah.
plan everything out, and there's people who write by the seat of their pants. And in reality, like it's always a kind of a mix of a two, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, I will say this. I think I don't like disparaging anybody's way of writing at all. Um, Lord knows I write weird. But if you're creating something, you should have something in mind about what it is as a sort of complete thing, sort of, I think. Um, that is assuming you plan on finishing it, I guess. Um, like, you should go in knowing that you want to say X or Y or whatever, and you should make your work around that because, like you said, people remember endings often most of all. And that's because it's what you're left with. So if you want what you want to, if you want to say something, if you want to connect people about your art, if you want to like give them some moment, I think it's got to come out in the ending. It has to.
Yeah. 100%.
Um, like I can't really think of a work that ends badly, like truly badly, where I'm like, no, I still liked that. Like I might say,
Yeah.
like with Game of Thrones, I'll say this. I think there's a lot of redeeming qualities in the early seasons, but like I have no desire to go back and watch it ever again. I'm done. Like I'm out because I don't care because I know where it's going and I don't care for where it goes.
Yeah. The you hit the nail in the coffin. Once you know where it goes, and if you don't like where it's going, there's no reason to care, and that's what keeps you watching is you care. And
You
if you
want to
don't
see
care,
how it
yeah,
ends, right? Like
exactly. Yeah. You're rooting for these characters to get the ending that you think it deserves. And sometimes people hit it on the nail, sometimes they don't. And when they don't, it's like, all right, you just move on. You'll find something else that'll do that for you.
right, right. I think
Yeah,
endings are really important.
they are.
Speaking of,
Speaking of, it's that time of the episode for us to say our goodbyes. Uh, that's it for this week, everybody. You can see what movies I'm watching on Letterboxd at Derek Aiello, and conveniently, I'm at Derek Aiello everywhere else on the internet. Dane, where can we find you and your work?
you can find me on Twitter at Dane_Fogdahl, and you can listen to my show Diceology, which is like the science of dice, on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. We recently ended our first anthology, speaking of endings, and I'm pretty pleased with it. I think we did a pretty good job. So you should
Yeah,
go check that out.
yee. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next week.
Catch you later.
Bye bye.